Round one of the GT World Challenge Esports America Championship presented by Fanatec last month saw Cody Pride fend off reigning series champion Michael Condacciolu to claim victory in the season opener at Kyalami. Today, the oldest active permanent road course in the UK plays host to the second round of the year with 42 virtual GT3 cars and some of the fastest sim racers in the Americas ready to test their skills in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Greetings from virtual Donington Park. It is a pleasure to have your company. My name is Ryan Marine, pleased to be joined today by the voice of the SRO's European Esports Series, Paul Jeffrey. And Paul, the SRO's Esports initiative only seems to be growing with 3 continental championships this year, racing monthly, and already this week 2 thrilling events from the Asian and the European Esports Series. The American Championship now on deck and about to go live here from Donington.
Hello Ryan, good afternoon everybody at home. Yes indeed, the Americas join Donington Park, my favourite track in the whole wide world, and I am absolutely delighted to be sat alongside you, although separated by several thousand miles, for this second race of the season. A very different track is Donington Park. It's 4 kilometres in length, there are 12 corners, it is uphill and down dale as we say over here in the UK, and it should present a fabulous race experience. And I can't wait, Ryan, to see how our drivers get on the challenge of this beautiful course.
It is a real thrill and a real challenge, and as mentioned, 42 cars will rise to the challenge. More on that in a moment, but we should go back and recap a little bit what happened in round one last month and take a look at our point standings coming out of last month's race. Cody Pride was able to hang on, holding off Season 2 champion Michael Condacciolu to take the points lead, leaving the first race at Kyalami. William Hendrickson actually led portions of that race, but fell back to third for the John Alesi Esports Academy. Honor Rose, his teammate, last year's GT4 champion, was able to make it up to fourth. Chris Sievert, Matt Lehman, Ryan Walker, Philippe Simard, Zach Patterson, and Killian Ryan Meenan, the top 10 in the first race of the year, and therefore the top 10 in points leaving the first race of the year. Let's take a look at the entry list. Many of those same names will be featured, 42 cars in all. The top 10 in Season 2 points locked in if they so choose to participate. The top 5 from the previous round also locked in to the second round now of the championship, plus a couple of special invitations as well. But as you can see, Cody Pride, last week's winner in car number 1 for PPR Esports, headlining this entry list. Emile Carpentier, Hamza Gulzar, a couple of the others to keep an eye on, as well as Philippe Simard, who will be starting from pole in a few moments' time. Here on the second screen, a few of the representatives of the HPD Jazz Pro America contingent, including Carden Liu and Zach Patterson. Carl Whitmer has real-world commitments, can't be with us here this weekend. We hope to see him in a future race as well as some of the other drivers here in this great field of cars. Honor Rose, certainly one to keep an eye on from the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. As mentioned, the Season 2 GT4 driver. Chris Sievert, very fast as well for Blackhawk Racing. And don't forget about Michael Condacciolu, Season 2's GT3 champion. That in a Mercedes, now driving in a McLaren. The McLaren's very strong with 4 cars in the top 11 in the first race of the season. There you see some of the other cars that will be taking a start in the race here today. Igor Rodriguez from Williams Esports, very quick, of course. Simon Fisher, a consistent participant in the American Championship, along with Chris Bruno. Simon Salomon, very fast in the practice sessions earlier today as we get ready to go. Before we dive into the storylines for this week's race, why don't we discuss, or take a look rather, around this Donington Park circuit with our Honda Performance Development track preview at Onboard Lap with Josh Staffen.
Hey everyone, Josh Staffen here, driver of the 94 Acura NSX GT3 Evo, and here's a Honda Performance Development Lap at Donington in the United Kingdom. Coming over the line to start the lap, we bring the car to the left side of the track, braking hard at the final marker on the right side. Trail brake to the apex, and then smoothly get on the throttle using all of the exit curve. Turns 2 and 3 are flat, making sure we're using all of the track width before braking for turn 4 at the 1 marker on the right side. We brake in a straight line, coming off the brakes as we turn the car in for the apex, getting on power across the apex as we use all the available runoff on exit. Turns 5 and 6 are flat, keeping the car to the right through 6 to set the car up for entry into turn 7, braking just as we pass the 1 marker on the left side. Turn 8, you rely on experience for braking, with no easily visible reference available. Brake in a straight line, then transition onto throttle just before the apex, being patient to get on full power to avoid the car understeering wide on exit. Now running down to one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track, turn 9. We're looking to brake just after the 1 marker on the right side, dropping down to the top of 2nd gear, and then balancing the car on throttle as we come across the 2 apex curves. Turn 10, we brake just after the 1 marker on the left side, trail braking all the way to the apex, waiting for the front end of the car to grip up before we get on power, leaning on the TC as we track all the way out to the left side of the track, before bringing the car back to the right side for turn 11. Braking midway along the curve on the right side, then coming to cross the line to complete a lap of Donington in the United Kingdom.
These drivers from a strategic perspective.
It does indeed. We've seen in the various SRO eSport competitions that the majority choice is to not change tyres. The amount of time you'll lose on pit road to bolt a new set of slicks onto these cars is just too great compared to the advantage you win. The mandatory pit window opens with 35 minutes left on the clock. It lasts for 10 minutes, so it's very, very difficult to make up for any time loss. But the overcut or the undercut are incredibly powerful in these cars. You're not necessarily gaining anything from the life and the speed within your tyres. What you are gaining from is track position. If you come in, as we mentioned earlier, if you come in early in the pit window cycle and you come back out in traffic, especially on a short lap such as Donington Park, you can potentially lose significant amounts of time following cars that are naturally a little bit further down the running order than where you'd want to be running. But if you come in too late and then again you come out in traffic with some of your rivals that are hot tyres, they're in the zone, they're in the move, and then you can't find a way past or you can't defend from them. So it's a real gamble, and we've seen very different strategies employed over the course of the time. So I'm fascinated to see, Ryan, exactly how our drivers elect to choose this. I dare say they'll probably pick whatever strategy is suitable in the heat of the moment, because you never can plan these things.
That is an awfully difficult thing to do, though, in the heat of the moment. Try to think strategically while you're embroiled potentially in battles for position. How many of these drivers have teams helping them out, trying to make some of those calls for them? How many of them do you think are flying solo?
Well, we've found a lot of these drivers now, such is the level of esport racing, such is the professionalism of a championship like this, often have a driver coach in their ear, or to have a tactician as well, talking to them on their local closed-loop radio circuit, telling them where they are relative to the other drivers. And it's fascinating to see how much depth is put in by all of these teams, how much work. It's not just a case of turn up and race, there's a whole team effort behind you.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and all that hard work paying off for Philippe Simard, who will start on the front row, that number 9 BMW. He'll have Michael Condacciolu, the reigning champion in SRO America Esports competition, starting alongside. Those two know each other well from racing last year during Season 2 of the championship, so keep an eye on them. Sievert and Lehman starting in 3rd and 4th, and Pride, the winner from race 1 of the season, mired all the way back in 5th. He'll have Josh Staffen, who gave us that tour of this track, starting alongside him on the outside of the 3rd row. Salomon and Oliveira start 7th and 8th. Etier and Hendrickson 9th and 10th. Hendrickson had a podium the first time out. Then Patterson and Fisher making up the 6th row. Alvarado, very, very quick in practice. In fact, was the quickest in free practice 1 before we came on for this broadcast. He's new to this championship, but will start 13th with Loverink alongside, then Carden Liu and Daniluk, Gardner and Murdoch, Canopin and Cloutier make up the top 20 starting positions. Down into the 21st starting position is Carpentier alongside Moisen, Lavender and Jackson, 23rd and 24th, Rodriguez and Molly, 25th and 26th, Negrini and Woodrow start 27th and 28th. Langevin and Fritz will line up in 29th and 30th, respectively, followed by Mathis and Borden. Lavoie and Kostovich in 33rd and 34th. Quinn Smith and DeBoer, 35th and 36th. Carolia and Bruno, 37th and 38th, with Zach Coonan all the way back in the 39th starting position. Final 3 starters, Gabriel, Mola, and Santiago, based on qualifying earlier today. What a great look at this grid of fantastic GT3 cars. And Paul, anytime we go GT3 racing, you'll notice such diversity in the cars on the grid. Front engine, mid-engine, rear engine, naturally aspirated, as well as turbocharged. And nevertheless, we get to the end of these qualifying sessions, and the top 10 inevitably are so close to one another thanks to the great balancer performance system from the SRO, which is modeled perfectly in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is why GT3 racing is so popular in real and virtual life. As you say, the variety is beautiful. There's some real sports car names in there as well. We've got Lamborghinis, Ferraris and McLarens, Acuras, BMWs, Porsches. It is a beautiful sight to behold. The cars are accessible. Drivers can race these machines as well. It's all about the racing in GT3. And just to talk about the qualification for a moment, anybody who's new to the SRO America series, there's only a 15-minute qualification, so you've got some of those names a little bit further down the running order than we would traditionally expect, because it's so hard to get a clean lap in 15 minutes here at Donington Park. So expect some of these drivers to start charging their way through the order as the race progresses, which for us up in the comms box, Ryan, means we're going to have a very nice time for the next 60 minutes as we see plenty of charging throughout the field, not just at the front.
It's going to be remarkably close. The top 12 separated by less than half a second in that qualifying order. The difference between pole and second, 78 thousandths of a second. Simard over Condacciolu. We've seen in the past Simard maybe the edge in qualifying over Condacciolu, but Michael is very, very quick when we go racing. And this track, as you talked about, does not necessarily have the reputation of being the easiest to overtake on, but there are a couple of places you can get it done. Paul, if you were behind the wheel, where would you say the best chances of making up a spot would be?
For me, the easiest opportunity is either into or out of the foggy S's. Into, under braking, secure the inside line, then block the apex at the second part of the chicane. Or coming out of, if you can pressure your rival into defending fresh air, you can get a good run through foggies, down into the Melbourne hairpin, which again is another outstanding overtaking opportunity. That's a tight right-hand hairpin. So get up the inside, you can cover the line for the run into Goddard's. But this is very much a track, Ryan, where it is relatively easy to pressure one of your rivals into a mistake. Too much curb, a little bit late on turning, they're going to be compromised for the next section of corners. So you can go too wide at several parts of this track, but it will require a little bit of cooperation from your rival, which for me as a new name into the SRO America series, I don't know how these drivers race yet, so whether cooperation's forthcoming or not, we're going to find out over the next 60 minutes.
And we might find out very soon in that next 60 minutes because, as always, the starts of these races, the rolling starts into a relatively tight opening corner here and coming out of a very tight corner, turn number 11 onto the Wheatcroft Straight, which is the pit straight at Donington. With 42 cars trying to get in 2x2 alignment through that section of the track, it is going to take some cooperation to get through without any kind of contretemps.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's got to be a bit of respect. There's a famous saying in motorsport that you can't win the race at the first corner, but you can most certainly lose it there. And I think on the run down of Redgate, and in particular the run down the crane occurs into the old hairpin, drivers have got to show and practice a little bit of patience. There's no point throwing everything on the line in this opening lap because the chances of disaster are significant. And Donington's an old school circuit. There are not miles and miles of runoff at the side of the track. So you get pushed wide by one of your rivals, you're onto the slippery grass and you're heading straight to the scene of the accident. So drivers need to show a little bit of caution while peppering in some aggression as well to make up some places, which is ever the balancing act our racers have to do on any given circuit, no less so here at Donington.
Track conditions quite favorable, 18 degrees Celsius and 23 degree track temperature. It's 18 degrees Celsius ambient temperature with overcast skies. That's what we practiced and qualified in earlier today, or near enough as makes no matter. Philippe Simard in the BMW will start on pole, but it is the McLaren of Condacciolu that we'll want to keep a close eye on as the reigning champion. Looks like something going flying there in the backdrop. Did you see that as well? One of perhaps a tire bundle or something like that flying off in the background?
Yeah, that doesn't bode well. Somebody's taken the tyre stack out on the run down to the chicane on the formation lap, so let's see how that progresses in the race.
Mentioned the strength of Condacciolu in that McLaren. 2 McLarens starting in the top 4. 4 McLarens finished in the top 11 in the first race of the season. It's interesting to see that presumed advantage, I suppose, continues from one race to another. We'll see if it can carry over from qualifying to the race here for round number 2. 60 minutes on the clock. The field in good alignment coming down the Wheatcroft Straight, headed down to Redgate, just waiting to take the green flag, and there it is. Philippe Simard in the BMW to the left of the screen, able to get a nice jump. Condacciolu pulls to the inside for this right-handed corner right behind. The challenge is on for third between Lehman and Sievert just behind so far. Clean and green, still largely too wide throughout the front of this field.
Fantastic driving throughout the field, nice and clean on the run down now into the hold hairpin, a minor braking zone into the right hand hairpin, no, a little bit of contact further back. That's one of the Aston Martins just getting squiggly, having a little bit of close attention from the car behind, but so far so good.
I think that was Sievert who slipped back a little bit here at the start, and look, Condacciolu has been able to get the jump on Simard and take the lead just like that here into the opening corner, into McLean's for the first time, then the run to Coppice. Simard now on the back foot. He's going to have to defend from Lehman in the purple McLaren.
Fantastic stuff. Condacciolu doing exactly what he needed to do in this opening stage of the race. Get that race lead, get the fresh air, try and put his foot down now and gap the chasing pack. Simard now under significant pressure into the Melbourne loop. Lamar looking around the outside. Can he make a move under the braking zone? He's got a long way around the track to go. The BMW will, of course, run him out of racetrack, as is his right. There we go. The McLaren not quite having enough pace at this stage in the race, but already our field is showing plenty of aggression and desire to move forward. And Ryan, this is just what we need in the opening lap. Some great racing.
Well, while the battle for second was joined, Michael Kondachulu made good his escape to the tune of 1.2 seconds over Philippe Simard. He was able to parry the thrust from Lehman just a moment ago, holds on to that second spot in the BMW. Sievert right there running in the fourth position in the Aston Martin, and Simon Solomon in the first of the Porsches runs in fifth. Taking a good look at Simon here in that Porsche. Of course, the iconic rear-engine layout of that 911 that is so true to form year after year. You see 911s racing in various categories around the world, but he goes for a spin here off the nose of Hendrickson, a podium finisher in race one. And Paul, I don't think the stewards are going to like that one.
No, we've got live stewards here, of course, as we always do in the SRO Esports Championship. They will be reviewing that one. Hendrickson just putting a lazy half move up the inside, showing his nose, running out of space very rapidly, and so disappointing here for Salomon, trying to get back on the racetrack. But oh, Ryan, such a really frustrating feeling when you're seeing 40-something cars whipping past you. So not what he needs at this early stage in the race.
And with the field this tight, it's going to be very difficult for Solomon to try and make up the lost ground there. Hendrickson, as mentioned, finished third in the opener at Kyalami, part of the John Alesi Esports Academy team. Very curious what the stewards will think of that maneuver as we take a look a little bit further back in the field, fanning out here out of turn 11 and down the Wheatcroft straight once again.
3 wide at the back of the shot, 2 wide into Redgate. The Acura on the inside makes the manoeuvre. However, the Lamborghini not wanting to give up there. That is Zach Etienne now on the outside. A run down Hollywood into the Crane curves. No way 2 cars can make it through there, or can they? The Acura hangs out on the outside. That becomes the inside for the old airpin. He secures the position. Etienne down into 11th place. Lau up to 10th in the Acura. Fantastic racing, and now we've got Guardia trying to buy into the fight as well. So this fight for 10, 11 and 12 with another BMW starting to sneak up onto the back as well is fabulous stuff from our drivers. A lot of danger, a lot of excitement in these opening first few laps of this race, contrary to what I suggested at the top of the show. Keep it calm, no, go for it right from the off. That's the way we do this thing. Ha!
Well, keep in mind that it is the top 10 that pays points in this championship, so it's crucial to try and get there as we watch Etienne try and find a way around Lou in the Acura. Lou a little bit off the pace there, and that's going to allow Etienne to swing to the outside, gets that move complete, and here comes Alvarado. As I say, it's complete. It might not be quite done yet. It does look like he's able to grab that spot, but keep an eye on the purple Aston of Alvarado. Incredibly fast in free practice one. Didn't get the qualifying result he was looking for. Mired a bit further down, but is able to make some progress here in the early going. Right now, running just outside the points in his first series start.
Yeah, Alvarado very much on his tiptoes at this moment in time in the strikingly liveried Aston Martin GT3 that we see in the middle of your shot now. Nicholas Alvarado, 12th position at the moment. Reminder, we need a top 10 to score points, of course. And Alvarado, it's bizarre actually. Lou in the Acura ahead seems to have dropped significant amounts of pace over the last couple of laps. So Alvarado will sense this. He will know that he's very much in the ascendancy at the moment and will want to clear that Acura as fast as possible. Otherwise, he's going to be in danger of starting to come disconnected from the cars ahead. So keep your eye on this one, folks. This is only going to get more and more intense. And we've also got Gardner as well in the BMW trying to bang into this fight.
Just over 5 minutes into this 60-minute race. Remember, there will be a mandatory pit stop for just a splash of fuel, optional tires, but as Paul mentioned, typically we don't see the competitors electing to change tires because of the amount of time lost. That will be coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Here is Hendrickson in the Mercedes trying to fend off Oliveira in the BMW. Just behind, we see Patterson in the first of the Acuras. You see the Honda on...
So William
That's what the NSX is. And while in Europe it races as the Honda, we'll keep an eye on him. But for the moment, Hendrickson and Oliveira, that's the duel.
Yep, sorry about that one, Ryan. I lost you for a few moments there, so jumping on it. But William Hendrickson, as you say, in the 757 Mercedes, heading down once again. Such a short lap here at Donington Park. So already we're on lap 4. There's 53 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock. And Hendrickson using the grunt and go performance of that Mercedes AMG to keep himself just ahead of Oliveira in 7th place in the number 32 BMW. Two very, very competitive cars, the BMW and Mercedes, but Hendrickson at the moment doesn't quite have the speed of the chasing 32, so can he keep that BMW at bay as we run down into the chicane and on the way to the Melbourne Loop?
Oh, there looked like a spin there. I think that, well, we'll see if we can figure out who that was, but it looked like a car off track just at the bottom of the screen. Meanwhile, Hendrickson still trying to hold on to this position. And this has been the best duel on the track. Kanachi Chilu up in front of Simard right now and actually able to extend that gap on this lap by about 0.3 of a second more over Philippe Simard. Then we've got Sievert, Pride, and Hendrickson now up into 5th, as it looks like it was Lehman that went for the spin. He's dropping down the order, currently shown in 12th.
Oh, Lehman, and that's a dangerous manoeuvre to make so early in the race, down into 12th position. According to the timing tower on the left-hand side of our screen, he was in the podium places just one lap ago, so Lehman now with plenty of work to do in the 67 McLaren, just behind Alvarado in that little fight that we saw a couple of laps ago. So Lehman's very much got himself back into the danger zone, but still, with 52 minutes on the clock, there's plenty of racing left ahead of us.
We've got a replay of what happened to Lehman. Let's take a look here in the slipstream, looking to make a move, and ooh, that took out 3 cars in one.
Oh, that is very, very messy into T1. It's not a significant braking zone into the Redgate first corner, but of course made the mistake there. But looking now, this is Hendrickson under pressure, closing down the door on Oliveira in the BMW, gave the BMW no room to manoeuvre. Goes a little bit off grass cutting, keeping the Leicestershire Park side nice and neat here at Donington Park, and that one will have caught his attention somewhat. Now we know where we stand. The Mercedes isn't giving up.
And here comes Lehman on his comeback drive, now dropping back to 13th. Looks, to my eye at least, like he's avoided any kind of major damage to that purple McLaren, but out of the points as they run right now. The Hillmount Racing entered McLaren, trying to run down Gardner there in the BMW just ahead, and it's side by side behind Murdoch and Jackson doing battle. I think also in the mix you might have had Moisen too, so yeah, this is a great 3-car battle just outside the points, running 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Yep, Trevor Jackson in the Audi, currently trying to attack and defend at the same time. Such an uncomfortable position for a driver to be in, looking through the windshield at the front, trying to work out a way to get past your rival, which Jackson's doing with a plum at the moment, all the way up the rear splitter of Murdoch's Ferrari, loses it on corner exit. That makes him vulnerable now to Moisen in the yellow Aston Martin behind. So Trevor Jackson's in that difficult place. If he makes an overtaking attempt on the car ahead of Murdoch, it needs to be a good one. No half measures can be allowed here, otherwise Moisen will be through. And Woodrow as well in 17th position, not a million miles away behind as well, with several cars in close attendance. So a very intense fight on the lower reaches of the top 20 at the moment.
Yeah, this is what GT3 racing is all about. No difference between these cars, just a couple of tenths of a second one way or the other, and look at the great variety between the manufacturers as well. Great fight going here. Jackson in the mix very much as we go back to Oliveira here, still trying to find a way to get back up to Hendrickson, and we've got a car rejoining the fight. You'll notice that many of the drivers use that pit lane for that little bit of extra pavement, that added angle into Redgate there, the first corner on this lap. And when you've got a car coming out of the pits, that's really the preferred racing line in a lot of instances. That was a hairy moment.
Yeah, very, very close indeed, but luckily disaster has been avoided. And to talk about that wide line into Redgate for a moment, actually we're going back now to Caleb Lavender in the BMW. Lavender now with 2 cars snapping away at his heels. That's Carpentier in the Audi. Gives a little bit of a love tap to the rear corner. That pushes Lavender wide. Carpentier through. Now big contact there with one of the Lexus cars. That's the number 731. Sends him straight to the scene of the accident. So Lavender unsighted, makes contact. cars bouncing off the walls, and unfortunately now for the 731, straight down pit road and into retirement. But Caleb Lavender, a very aggressive move there from the BMW driver, and I think he's about to lose another position from the chasing Rodriguez behind.
Usually we see Lavender a bit closer to the pointy end, another stalwart in SRO America Esports competition. Back to this fight here with Oliveira in the BMW suddenly on the defensive. He was the one attacking Hendrickson just a few laps ago, but here comes Patterson in the Acura NSX right behind, and then it's the McLaren of Simon Fisher who's been making some steady progress up through this field as well.
Yeah, the McLaren, a very sleek car, very good in a straight line, quite compliant as well through the corners. So expect to see McLaren, as it is with Michael Kondasoglu, at the top of the field. A very competitive proposition here at Donington Park. But passing is one thing, catching even is one thing. Passing is an entirely different thing altogether. So Fisher still has plenty of work to do, as we get a note now from race control that contact between cars 210 and 69 drive-through penalty for the 210 machine, which is driven by Renan Negrini. Drive-through penalty, disappointing. Once again, big loss here at Donington Park as well with a speed differential.
Yeah, going to be just about impossible to bounce back from that. We've got a 5-second time penalty being displayed as well for one of the cars. But how about this battle? This is all the way back for 31st, and it's like Skylar Loverink gets the wrong end of that one, goes off track, drops a couple of wheels off in the gravel trap, but is able to rejoin the fray, just loses a couple of positions and some track position to boot. But boy, that could have been a lot worse, as we've seen from several of these other incidents already.
Yeah, but very typical Donington Park manoeuvre. If I had a pound or a dollar or a euro, depending on where you're watching from, every time I've seen that happen, I would be a very rich man indeed here at Donington Park. It's such a tight racetrack. You don't necessarily see it on the TV screens, but compared to, say, an FIA Grade 1 facility, the track is very, very narrow. GT3 cars are getting bigger every year as well, so 2 and 2 together means very little room for manoeuvring. A little mistake or a bit of a hip and shoulder from somebody, and you're very quickly onto the grass, and it takes all of your skill and talent to keep the car facing in the right direction, and more importantly, on the grey stuff and moving forwards.
Well, in spite of the difficulties of overtaking, we have seen some aggressive maneuvers, and we've seen them pull them off as well. It speaks to the level of talent in this field. 42 of the very best doing battle here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Igor Rodriguez from the Williams Esports team, mired all the way back in 20th in his Ferrari. He's working on Lavender, who has been slipping backwards here over the last few laps, and this might be a chance. Lavender goes defensive, now swings back to the outside. Can Rodriguez pull up to the inside before we get into the S's? The answer is no. We'll have to settle back in line and try and get in that big old slipstream. The hole in the air punched by that BMW M6 GT3 just up the road.
Yeah, Rodriguez, one thing I did notice from that little bit of action between the two cars, it can really turn the car in much, much better than the BMW of Lavender ahead, so keep our eye out for that one. Meanwhile, this is Carolina, in the, what car is that? That's the Audi, coming through Goddard's now, a little bit of contact with the Mercedes. The Audi makes the position up. We've got a Lexus in the fight as well, so these drivers all racing very, very hard for 22nd position at this moment in time in the race. It just shows you, Ryan, doesn't it? The fighting at the front of the field is intense. The fighting all the way further down the running order is just as intense, even though there are no points for these positions on offer. They still want that position. They still want the credit of knowing they've beaten their rival.
Paul, you took the words out of my mouth. I was thinking, well, what's to be gained here? This position doesn't pay you any points, and you're a long way out of the points, but that's not the racer's mentality, is it? If there's a gap, you go for it. That's the old quote, and we've been seeing that so far, even if perhaps there hasn't been a gap to speak of. Up front, Kondasoglu leads over Samar, the pole sitter, by 1.4 seconds at last check. Sievert now 2.7 seconds back in third. Very interested to see that it's been such a quiet run for our race one winner in Pride. A little bit further down the order, Carolina is still very much in the mix of this fray, and that's going to back up the field behind him. Look at this, 3 wide here into the braking zone.
Oh, close your eyes, hope for the best.
Somehow able to get it done into the Melbourne hairpin, and everyone comes out on the other side. That's some wild stuff. Here we go into turn 11 now. Carolina slipping back some in that Audi, trying to rebound, able to fend off the challenge of the Bentley of Coonan. And now, with the eyes out the front, trying to go on the attack just as quickly.
That was some wonderful racing from all concerned there. Carolina, very much the man that's under challenge, under pressure from his rivals. We see the two Bentleys swapping positions at the rear of your shop. But Carolina did a great job there to keep his composure, keep his awareness of where the other cars are, and round him out on the racetrack. And he does live to fight another day. Oh, it's very slow there through the old hairpin. Not enough room for the Bentley of Coonan behind to find a way past. But Carolina very, very quickly needs to regain some speed in that number 99 Audi R8 LMS Evo, as he quickly does through the top section of the circuit. We're about to start going downhill into the chicane. The Bentley Continentals, one of the Lamborghinis goes grass tracking in the background as well, so that position moves up to 24 for Mohamed Kalalaya, but he needs to keep his finger on the pulse, otherwise he's quickly going to start going backwards. And the first line in the queue is Coonan in the number 300 Bentley Continental behind.
You talked about Coonan looking for that gap in the big old Bentley, and it needs to be a big gap to fit the Continental GT3 through. It's amazing how successful those cars have been in real-world competition, and there's a nice following for them in the sim racing world as well. But going back to last year, that big win in the Bathurst 12-hour for the Bentley Continental and that Bentley team, that was absolutely huge for them. They've had a great deal of success in GT World Challenge America over the years too with the K-Pax team. As we see another message here from Race Control, again our live stewards unfortunately very busy here with an incident going all the way back to lap 1 as Coonan drops a wheel and loses some time as a result, but another penalty handed down for some contact earlier in this race.
And that penalty was actually for Samuel Gardiner, which is a driver that was running quite a way up in the running order earlier in the race. So Samuel getting himself a drive-through penalty. That will be on top of the mandatory pit stop. Don't forget, you cannot serve them at the same time. There will be 2 escapes down to pit road over the course of this race for Samuel Gardiner. So big shame there for the privately entered BMW M6 GT3 driver, number 16, who's got to head down pit road in the very near future.
Getting closer to that mandatory pit stop window here in about 6 minutes time. A replay coming up though of an incident just a little bit earlier.
Ooh.
What do you make of that, Paul?
Oh, that is I'm going to try and be diplomatic and say that is suboptimal driving from all those concerned, but I do think our stewards will have their pens and pencils out and will be scribbling away furiously. Expect some kind of detriment warning to the driver for that one. Very, very uncomfortable bit of driving there, unfortunately.
Good look here at this purple Aston of Nicholas Alvarado from New World Sim Racing. And we mentioned at the beginning of the show that a number of the positions in this field were guaranteed based on results either from Season 2 or from last month in the first round of the championship. The rest, though, were open to the general public through a hot lap qualifying system, and in perusing the results of that qualifying system, I saw Alvarado's name attached to a couple of different manufacturers, frequently towards the top of the charts. So basically there's a certain allotment of entries given to each of the GT3 manufacturers, and we saw Alvarado testing them out in different ways, and it seems like he's settled here on this Aston Martin, and while he didn't get the qualifying effort he was looking for, now just outside the points, looking very, very strong. Carden Liu is the next victim up in his crosshairs.
Yeah, great driving so far from Nicholas Alvarado. Fantastic debut in the GT World Challenge Esports America Sprint Series. So we'll see how his race progresses. 11th on track at the moment, only nearly 3/10 of a second away from Liu in P10. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Michael Kondatsioglu continues to lead by 1.5 seconds from Simard, with Sever in 3rd position. Our championship leader Cody Pride is in P4, a further 2.8 seconds in arrears. Oliveira in P5 at the number 32 BMW, and then this man, Zach Patterson in the Acura, the fastest, the furthest up the field, should I say, of the Acura drivers, P6. And we see now Oliveira getting 2 wheels on the grass, and Ryan, this is a good opportunity.
It very well might just open the door here for Patterson. He's going to take a peek to the inside, but the door shuts in his face. Oliveira very defensive here in this BMW. Patterson right there in the slipstream. This is the run through McLean's up towards Coppice. And then if he can get a nice run here, there's that chance into the Foggy S's at the bottom of this hill. But it doesn't look like Patterson is close enough this time around. Using that curbing to the outside. Now all of the curbing here on the inside of the S's back to the outside on the left hand of the screen. Very strong off of that corner for the BMW as we go back to Nicholas Alvarado on the attack, and Carden Liu tries to mount a defense, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it done here in the Melbourne hairpin. Give the 10th and final points paying position to the newcomer Alvarado.
Textbook, absolutely textbook overtaking manoeuvre there by the Aston Martin driver to take that 10th position. And look at the back of the shot. Who's that? That is Lehman. We saw him have an off-track incident earlier, but Mark Lehman now on the recovery drive, just two places away from points, and expect him to move much further up as the race progresses as well. So a good recovery from Matt Lehman here in the number 67 machine.
Yeah, outstanding from Matt. He qualified in the 4th spot. We saw him go off track in the back of our picture, 10-15 minutes ago, and he was mired back there outside of the top 15, and now finds himself just outside of the points. It might not be the ultimate outing that he was hoping for as far as the championship is concerned, but nevertheless a decent recovery, and sometimes that's all you need to win a championship, just trying to make lemonade out of the lemons. As we go back to Patterson here in the Acura, 37 minutes left. That means just 2 minutes from the pit stop window opening. And if perhaps you're stuck in traffic like Patterson has been, trying to find a way past Oliveira, and you can't get it done on track, then pit strategy, Paul, might be the way to get it done.
Yeah, strategy is going to be very, very important, especially with the field as closely compact as they are at the moment. And for everybody at home, just to give you a quick update on how this pit window works, on your screen to the left-hand side is the timing screen. You will notice a little orange square next to drivers' names with a number 1 in it. That means they've still got one mandatory pit stop to serve. When they have served that pit stop, when the pit window opens in a couple of minutes' time, that will go green, and that's how you know they've been down pit road. As Samuel Gardner now goes sideways in the BMW. In fact, that's not Gardner, sorry, that is... no, it is Gardner in the BMW, goes sideways following that drive-through penalty, so it gets worse for Samuel Gardner, facing the wrong direction at the Melbourne Loop.
Looked to me like Coonan in the Bentley was involved in that contact, and again, that might be one that draws the ire of the race stewards. Back to the battle for around the 19th and 20th positions, with Caleb Lavender in the BMW trying to hang on. Pierre-Olivier Cloutier right behind, currently running 20th in this Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. Then you get the Lexus RCF GT3 right behind. That is Kostovich, and Kostovich might be the one to keep an eye on. He's been on a charge, looking very strong, closing in over the last couple of corners on the Mercedes of Cloutier just up the road.
Yeah, the Lexus is a very strong, very compliant car. Not necessarily the quickest in the field of GT3 runners, but it is very good over the curves and through the uphill and downhill sections of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Now we're looking again at Nicholas Alvarado, the man very much on the move. The next person in his sights is 9th position for the number 88 Lamborghini of Etier ahead. But tantalisingly for Alvarado, look how many cars are within the shot of his front windscreen. Gets one car, gets two, gets three, gets four. Suddenly you're fighting for a podium. Great driving for Alvarado so far, 10th in the Aston Martin. As the pit window opens, Ryan.
As you can see there at the top of the screen, everyone has to serve that mandatory pit stop in the next 9 minutes and 43 seconds. They are required to take 1 liter of fuel. For those of you stateside, that's about 1/4 of a gallon of fuel. Tires are optional. We do not anticipate them to take tires. That's going to be totally different when we get to the next round of the championship, which is the first of our endurance races. That will be held at Laguna Seca next month. Then next after that is the following week in the SRO America Esports Championship calendar as we head to Spa for the next of the sprint rounds. But if you are interested in being involved and think you've got the pace to qualify, it's about time to start thinking about putting your team together for the endurance rounds. And what we saw last year in Season 2 was that many of these drivers that were fierce rivals on the track in the sprint races, they decided to team up with one another for the Enduro, and that made it for a pretty unique situation of guys that might have been going wheel to wheel or even sometimes taking it a bit further than that and running afoul of one another, suddenly being on the same team. This is the first move in that pit stop strategy, at least amongst the front runners, as Alvarado and Lehman both make their way down pit lane.
Right, this will be fascinating learnings for us in the commentary box and you folks at home as well. Let's keep our eye on where Alvarado and Lehman come back out of pit road. Alvarado's actually stationary for a little bit longer. The car's not gone green at this moment in time, although that will update itself as the race progresses and the drivers pass the next timing loop. So keep our eye out where they re-enter the circuit and how this affects the front-running mentality of these drivers. Do they see their rivals have gone down pit road, and will their engineers be in their rears and telling them the gap to these two cars? We're looking now at Simard on the push. So Philippe Simard, second position, starting to close that gap down to the McLaren of Kondratoglu ahead. He knows the pit window is open. He knows this is the time to go, where races can be won, lost. Let's see if either of these two drivers decide to dive down into the pit lane on the left hand side. Kondratoglu goes past, he thinks against it, so does Simard, and in the back of your shot, that is, I believe, a Ferrari down pit road as well. So all starting to happen at the front of the field.
Simard has been on a tear over the last few laps. He's cut a deficit that was over a second and a half, essentially has taken it in half at this point, down to 0.8 of a second. And you could see it better than the number just right there in this shot. That is first and second. McLaren over BMW. The two cars could not be much different in appearance, but the performance very, very close in GT3 racing. On board we go with the BMW driver Philippe Simard trying to run down the race leader Michael Kondratoglu, who stole the lead from our pole sitter right at the very start of this race on the opening lap.
And to explain, Ryan, potentially some of that gap closure could be what we spoke about right at the top of the show. Traffic is starting to play its hand in this race. Some of the drivers naturally starting to get lapped by the front runners. Other drivers are on pit strategies that are different to these two cars. You see the Porsche at the top of the shot there about to go a lap down, and who navigates that traffic best will have the biggest advantage. But the race leader, of course, is the first driver to wake up these drivers to the fact there's a faster car trying to find a way past. So inevitably, he's going to be the one that gets the rougher end of the stick. As we're looking back now from Kondratoglu, there goes the BMW of Simard down pit road. This is going to be great to see now. Kondratoglu knows his main rival is on pit road. What the Canadian driver do about it as this race progresses? He's only got 5 minutes and 50 seconds left to serve that mandatory stop.
I'm a little bit surprised that he elected to stay out with lap traffic just up the road, because that very well could impact his in-lap negatively, and that could allow Simard, if he's able to leave the pit lane with clear track ahead of him, to leapfrog Kondratoglu just because of the pit strategy. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Sievert, by the way, has also made his way into the pits and served his mandatory pit stop. A number of the other front runners are as well, but this right here, Paul, is what I was talking about. If Kondratoglu's lap is being compromised by this lap car, and then we see Simard able to get out with clear track to be able to run the kind of pace that we've seen out of him so far, that could be all the advantages that the BMW driver needs.
This is an absolute disaster for Kondratoglu. That's the 909 of Chris Bruno in the Porsche, getting very much in the way. Seconds have been lost trying to find a way past that Porsche, that back marker that's going a lap down. Now, Michael Kondratoglu has no choice but to stay out at least for another lap and try to rebuild that gap again. I'll be very surprised if he jumps down pit road, but he does. That shows what I know. Our race leader, Michael Kondratoglu, is on pit road. We see the picture-in-picture, great work from our broadcast team to see his main rival, that's Severa, I think it is, in the other stream. So let's see if Kondratoglu has made the right or wrong move with this stop.
Now, this could very well be what decides the outcome of this race, and I was with you, Paul. I thought for the same thing. You make that pass, he makes the stop there, gets that mandatory refuel. Here comes Simard out of that section. It looks like Simard actually lost some time at one point or another, because he's not actually all that close at all. So I'm not sure what went wrong there, and maybe that played into the calculation for Kadacioglu, but he does drop a few spots because there are still several drivers that have not made their stop, but at least he does seem to come out ahead in this battle with Simard, who just now is coming on to the Wheatcroft Straight. So something has delayed the BMW that previously was running second before the pit stops.
Yep, something has gone significantly wrong for the BMW driver that we're looking at now. Simard has lost time hand over fist from his immediate rivals. In fact, he's dropped behind Alvarado as well, significantly behind the 420 McLaren and Oliveira in the 32 BMW. And Lehman, the inevitable Matt Lehman, making his way up the order. So Philippe Simard has had a disaster on pit road, and I'm afraid to say, with just 28 minutes left on the clock, that has waved goodbye to his victory chances, I fear, in this race.
I suspect you're right. This is William Hendrickson, who was involved in coming together a little bit earlier in the race. A podium finisher at Kyalami, currently running in 10th, has already made his stop, as is denoted by the green bar to the right of his number there on the scoring pylon. You can see those that still owe their stops, as Paul described earlier, with a yellow bar with a 1 in the middle of it. That lets you know those drivers are yet to come to the pit lane. A handy little piece of telemetry for us. No question about that. Hendrickson, though, very, very fast. The Jean Alesi Esports Academy driver in the Mercedes, trying to find a way past the Acura just up the road. We've got Lehman in that McLaren, continuing his comeback bid, running right behind. And this should be just around the top 5, I suspect, when it all shakes out here following the pit stops.
Yeah, this is the drama time now. This is the one where it's incredibly difficult to understand exactly where everybody is until everything shakes out at the end of the race. Cody Pride is our race leader at the moment, but he is yet to serve his mandatory stop. Kadacioglu in second position, so he's retained, understandably, the race lead when everybody makes their stop. But Sever now is in what is a net second position. Third on track, second when Pride visits pit road. So great bit of driving and great bit of strategy there from Sever to move up into that second position. Patterson in the Mercedes that we spoke about is currently 5th on track. That will become 3rd when everybody makes their stop. Fisher from nowhere in the number 595 all of a sudden has thrown himself into the competition with the Racing Sim Tools Esports 720S. So great driving there from Simon Fisher as well as Hendrickson. A little bit more grass mowing, 2 wheels on the grass. That puts him under pressure from, you guessed it, Matt Lehman.
Yeah, Matt Lehman is on the charge, no doubt about it. Maybe driving through the red mist a little bit after the mishap early in this race, just trying to salvage a decent result, and nice firmly back in the points after dropping outside of the top 15 at one point. You could see just 50 seconds left in this pit window. The drivers must have at least entered the pit lane prior to that time expiring, or else they will run afoul of the regulations. It looks like everybody, at least in the top 23, has done that, so that's the good news as far as the strategy is concerned. And now we can start to see how this shakes out, and look at that. Pride has been able to jump up into second, thanks in part to the problems for Simard. So that was your winner from race 1 of the season. Now runs second, despite having a very quiet afternoon. Really not a whole lot to speak of, but nevertheless is in prime position to score very, very good points and quite possibly hang on to that points lead.
Right. Now, I've done this for a very, very long time. I have done many SRO eSport competitions with pit windows. I have got no idea how Cody Pride has managed to come out in second position. What a sensational recovery from our championship leader, Cody Pride. Nice and quiet, doing nothing dramatic, getting involved in no excitement, and poof, by magic, in P2. Unbelievable, and that is the kind of drive that makes championships, isn't it? Unobtrusive, score big points, happy times, great stuff from Cody Pride, amazing.
Well, I'm sure he benefited at least in part from Simard's issues. I think he was 4th before the pit window opened, so that's at least one of those spots. But to your point, it must have timed it perfectly and got the greatest in and out laps to jump at a further spot yet to get up into second, and is still within striking distance if he was able to preserve those virtual Pirelli tires on that Porsche to perhaps make a charge at the leader. But dropping back, this has been the man on the move so far in this race. Alvarado currently running in 10th. It does look like he might have dropped back a couple of spots over the course of this pit stop sequence. Here's Riley Murdoch and Caleb Lavender running a little bit behind there in the 18th position. Just about a second in between 16th, 17th, and 18th, all running close together.
Yeah, but just a little bit further up the road as well, we've got to see one of our drivers that was very much in contention, now down in 11th position. That is the number 19 of Samad in the BMW. Racing for pretty much the strong points right at the very top of the field, looking for a victory. Some kind of issue during the pit window phase, and now outside of the points, which just goes to show, Ryan, doesn't it, how quickly things can change here in a championship like this. One small mistake or one small issue unexpected, and suddenly your day completely turns on its head, as Simon Fisher in the Racing Sim Tools Esports 595 McLaren is 5th position, but very, very interested in the back of that Acura for P4.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He is trying to find a way by. This is Fisher in the McLaren working on the Acura of Patterson for 4th spot, and Hendrickson, who's had a busy day, is right behind with Lehman making a look to the outside, trying to make the long way around work. He's going to have to fall back in line, at least for now. But man, that McLaren has been on a charge really for the last 30, 40 minutes, or, well, that would go back to the beginning of the race. About 30 minutes or so, ever since he had the mishap. It's been an unobstructed, seemingly, run to the front for Matt Lehman.
And I love to see the aggression of Matt Lehman there, trying to go around the outside of the Craner curves. If it's good enough for Ayrton Senna, it's good enough for Matt Lehman in the Hill Mount Racing McLaren. Not quite successful this time, but that will be a signal of intent for William Hendrickson ahead. He will know that Lehman is not content with 7th position. He wants that 6th. Ideally, he wants to move further afield up the order as well. So we're right through with Lehman now through the chicane, coming down into the Melbourne Loop. He's not close enough to effect an overtaking, to show his nose to the inside. Just let Hendrickson know that his purple McLaren is there. Try and get Hendrickson to concentrate on his mirrors rather than concentrating on piloting his way around this Donington Park course. We come down now into Goddard's, the final corner. Lehman all the way up the rear of that AMG Mercedes, the McLaren. As we've already said, a very slippery car in a straight line. Will be using the slipstream to his best advantage again. Feints to the inside, shows his nose, lets the Mercedes know there's something for him to think about behind. And Matt Lehman very much looks like a man that will be moving forward in the very near future indeed, doesn't he?
We've seen him poke his nose out, inside, outside, trying the long way around this part of the track last time, and I think that goes back to, Paul, what you talked about at the start of the show. This is a track that doesn't necessarily have the most obvious passing opportunities, so sometimes the best way to make an overtake is just to force an error, and it looks like that's exactly what he's done. Here is Cody Pride in the battle for second, currently holds that spot, but is dropping off of Kondachelou and falling into the clutches of Chris Sever here for Blackhawk Racing. All of a sudden, that Aston Martin looming large in that rear view camera of the Porsche driver.
Yeah, Chris Sever probably doing the same that we're doing in the commentary box and thinking, how did that happen? Where's that Porsche come from? How has it got in front of me? Now it's time to make amends and do something about it. And Sever, so far in the Blackhawk Racing car, is a little bit quicker on the overall lap time than Cody Pride ahead of him. Pride, of course, is racing for the championship, is one of the drivers we expect to see at the sharp end of the field throughout the course of the season, so he needs to keep good points in the back of his mind. But don't forget, Chris Sever is 5th in the championship standings, courtesy of his 5th place finish last time out at Kyalami. So 3rd will do very nicely indeed, 2nd will do even nicer, thank you very much, and Chris Sever wants that position.
Well, there's not much difference between finishing 8th and 9th, just a couple of points, but there is a big difference. True, but there's a huge difference at the top of the field was where I was going with this, because it's 25 points for the win, just 18 for second, and it drops off quite significantly after that, 15 points for third. So these positions towards the top of the field are crucial if you're going for a championship, and the risk reward, it's a different criteria, isn't it, when you're talking about 18 points potentially for second to 25 for first. And I love the point structure that the SRO uses, because it really does incentivize people making an attempt at a pass rather than just settling in for that second spot, as we watch Philippe Simard here trying to make a comeback after something went wrong in that pit stop window. He was taking a peek to the inside of Alvarado, but for now is going to have to settle back in line.
It makes me wonder, thinking about it, Ryan, maybe did Samad think about a fuel strategy, or did he apply some fresh tyres to this BMW? If there are fresh boots on the big BMW 4 R&K Racing, then Samad will be incredibly fast in this second portion of the race. In fact, in the last 18 minutes and 30 seconds. But having lap time underneath you is wonderful as a driver. It's a great feeling, the grip that the car offers you. But we spoke about this ad nauseum during the course of the broadcast. It is not the easiest track in the world to overtake, is Donington Park. So Samad has all the work to do, and that would have been a big strategic risk from second position, dropping himself to 11th in the hope of recovering those places. I don't think that was the case. It probably lends itself more to a mistake, but whatever the case, Philippe Samad now 11th place. You can see Alvarado ahead. You can see 8th, 7th and 6th as well. So Samad, plenty to do with 18 minutes left on the clock.
Here comes Samard now. Got a great run there. Takes a peek to the inside. That's an optimistic place to try and make a move. Somehow the two cars emerge, still pointed in the right direction and without significant damage. I think perhaps because they got through it without any major incident, the stewards might say no harm, no foul, but that was very, very close to disaster for both of these drivers. I suspect if Alvarado had gone for his spin, well, first of all, at that point, his race would have been ruined, but then the hammer might just have dropped down on Philippe Samard, but that's not the way it played out.
Yeah, very, very risky from Philippe Samard there, but as you say, luckily both cars still facing in the right direction. The upshot is that is exactly what Samard needs. He's now cleared one of the cars. He has got another BMW of Oliveira ahead of him, so that's the next one on the list, and Samard moves immediately up to the back of that pack. As we're looking now, once again, Matt Lehman, 7th position. He's got the pace in that McLaren, but he's not found a way past the cars ahead. Hendrickson is the next man on the list, the number 757 AMG Mercedes. Fisher just ahead of Hendrickson, and Patterson just ahead of him, as well as Lehman finds a brand new racing line there through the old hairpin, but no harm, no foul, just say, still pointing in the right direction. And there's fights everywhere, but look, I haven't got a minute to take a breath, and Samard, the next man on the list, trying to find a way past Oliveira, immediately on the back of the black BMW. Ooh,
As he's going to try it in the same spot, he is. This one's a little bit cleaner this time into McLaren's. Now to Coppice here, and he's able to hold off in this internecine battle between BMWs, but needs to be a little bit defensive because I don't think Oliveira is ready to give this one up quite yet. Samard, the last of the late breakers through the S's, able to build a bit of a gap here into the Melbourne hairpin. And it looks like he has secured that position, at least for now. So Philippe Samard, after dropping several positions, he was running second before the pit stop window, has fought his way back into the points and now is up into 9th.
Yeah, some fantastic overtaking. Very much a man on the move is Philippe Samard. Great driving to overtake through Coppice. Very rare do you see such a clean overtaking manoeuvre at that part of the racetrack. And luckily for Samard, he seems to have pace at this stage of the race, and the rest of the cars are not that far up the road, so we can expect more drama in the next 15 minutes from Philippe Samard. As once again, William Hendrickson is the meat in a McLaren sandwich in 6th position. He has got Fisher just ahead with a little bit more pace in that Mercedes, I would hazard a guess at this stage in the race, and Lehman just behind as well. So Hendrickson in the danger zone at this moment in time. He'll want the position, he'll want to retain track position, but Lehman might have other ideas. Meanwhile, Fisher will be looking in his mirrors thinking, you two squabble as much as you can because I'm interested in Patterson in the Acura ahead.
3/4 of this race complete, under 15 minutes remaining. This is Hendrickson and Lehman battling over the 6th position. It looks like Fisher's been able to pull a bit of a gap here over the last couple of corners. For a moment there, it looked like Hendrickson might have the pace in the Mercedes, but that might have dissipated somewhat. And while all three of these guys are pushing one another, they are all slowly reeling in Patterson for 4th. So 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Throw 8th into the mix as well, all in the same shot. Hendrickson slides a little bit wide, but it doesn't look like Lehman's close enough to take advantage.
And this now, Ryan, is where we get into that stage of the race where the tyres are starting to get a little bit more worn. Drivers such as Hendrickson, who've been in the heated battle for the majority of this race so far, they've worked their car a little bit harder than some of the drivers around them. The setup will come into play as well. You can set these cars up in such a way that they're fast right from the beginning but fade at the end, or that come to life in the final portion of the race. We've seen that many times in different SRO Esports competitions. So maybe Hendrickson, the car's just starting to fall away from him a little bit now, and Lehman, with a bit firmly between the teeth, can smell blood in the water and wants that position, as Philippe Simard, 9th place, on the way on the way to the back of Lau in the Acura ahead, and Simard very much the man with the speed underneath him at this stage in the race.
Well, we know this might be the fastest car on the track. He was running down Kadacioglu prior to the pit stop window, but for whatever reason got stuck back outside of the top 10. So we know the car is fast. Now he just needs to be smart about picking his spots, and it's difficult to continue to be patient trying to find the most opportune place to make a pass when you can see that clock ticking down under 13 minutes now, and a whole host of cars he'd like to pass for a position out the windshield. But you have to remember, you're back in the points, still able to salvage something. Don't throw it all away here with 12 minutes to go with a overly aggressive move like we nearly saw just a few minutes ago as he tried to make his way around Alvarado.
And that is a very, very good point, well made. Now, he wants the positions and the points that come with it, but too much aggression at this stage in the race, and there'll be no recovery for it as we run down Craner curves into the whole hairpin. Once again, Simard did not score points in the opening round, so he needs this to get his championship challenge up and running. And the pace that we've seen from Philippe Simard today suggests he's going to be a driver. Oh, he makes contact with the back of the Acura, manages to keep the car facing in the right direction, does allow Simard, backs off, allows him to keep that position, lest he fear the wrath of the stewards. But just as we're talking about keeping a cool, calm head and making no mistakes, we have a little bit of contact, but they live to fight on in the run down into the foggy S's.
Cardin Liu on the defensive. Here comes Simard to the inside, late on the brakes, and can't get that BMW load up in time. Has to go through the gravel trap there, gave the spot back, so I don't think there'll be any kind of proceedings as far as stewards are concerned, as he did not gain an advantage. That was a late lunge up the inside. A little bit of desperation for Philippe Simard, who finished 8th in the season opener and is watching many of his championship rivals running towards the front of this field. Kadacioglu and Pride, they were 1-2 in the opposite order back at Kyalami. They run 1-2 once again, and Simard is one who, coming into this season, certainly had aspirations of a championship, but right now stuck behind Cardin Liu in the HPD Jazz America entry, that Acura NSX GT3 Evo.
Thank you, Ryan, for politely picking up on my mistake of saying Philippe Simard didn't score points last time. You're absolutely right. He was 8th at Kyalami. I obviously can't read the standing screen in front of me, but Simard, 8th last time, 9th this time, trying to go for 8th, and Cardin Liu and secures it. Liu decides, you want that more than I do, my friend. Go take the position so we don't end up in an accident of our own. And that is another place gained for the BMW driver. Next on the list is going to be the McLaren of Lehman, who is still stuck behind the back of Hendrickson in the Mercedes. We're looking now at Simon Fisher a little bit further up the road in 5th position, with Patterson in the Acura for company ahead of him, running down to the Melbourne Loop. And I've got to say, it is very, very rare that we see the Acura NSX GT3 Evo running so far up in a competition like this. It is great to see what is a beautiful looking and sounding car, especially in the hands of Patterson, being so competitive today.
Well, it is a car that is increasingly successful in real-world competitions, and it seems like HPD, which is the North American motorsports arm of Honda, which also encompasses Acura, of course, and then also Jazz, which is the European arm that campaigns these cars in series like Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli, as well as International GT Open. In both instances, HPD and Jazz both have really embraced esports over the last 18 months or so, and we're seeing that in action here with some official entries from those two organizations in this championship. And so I think maybe that with that we'll see this car being utilized a bit more frequently because it is a potent weapon. We've seen it win championships in GT3 competition in the States, including in GT World Challenge America. And it's always been very, very good in the wet, even in its pre-Evo iteration. So this is a pretty remarkable car, although right now it's having to fend off another remarkable car in the McLaren. Simon Fisher would desperately love to get past Patterson up to 4th, if at all possible, here in the final 8 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, Patterson is doing Fisher, should I say, is doing a sterling job in that McLaren. We saw earlier in the stint, he was coming under pressure from Hendrickson and Lehman behind, but now he's found a little bit of speed in that number 595 McLaren, the red and white car at the back of your shot there, and he's very much on the attack. He's attached to the back of the Acura ahead. Will he be able to find a way past with 8 minutes and 27 seconds left on the clock? Michael Kondratoglu just going wide at the hold hairpin there, making a mistake, a rare mistake for Michael Kondratoglu in race lead. Not enough to unsettle the Canadian driver, I wouldn't think, at this stage in the race, but Chris Pride will drive through that dust cloud. He will realise his rival, his championship rival, the race leader, has made a mistake, and that will give him a little bit of heart in the final 8 minutes of this race. Is it enough with enough time on the clock? I don't think so, but the pressure remains high even when you're leading out at front.
Now it just goes to show how much on the ragged edge these drivers are, even when it looks like the race is in hand. Kondratoglu not feeling confident enough to continue to back off at all, even with a lead that at the time was up over 8 seconds. That little off cost him over 2 seconds back to Pride, but he can afford that for now based on the strength of the start to his race. However, I'm sure that put his heart in his throat there for a few moments or so. As we drop back again to Philippe Simard, who's clawed his way back up to 8th. He's got Lehman and Hendrickson battling for position just up the road. Lehman trying to go the long way around the Mercedes, can't get it done, and that brings Philippe Simard to the party.
Oh, Matt Lehman will not know what's hit him in a few minutes' time as again he shows his nose at the inside of Hendrickson. He'll be looking so concentrating hard on the back of the Mercedes that he's followed for so long in this race, and all of a sudden there'll be an equally huge BMW looming large in his mirror. So Matt Lehman, he had an opportunity, he needed to grasp that opportunity because now he's very much under pressure. We'll get to see how well Matt Lehman can defend in the final few minutes of this race. We run down into the old airpin. The BMW shows his nose, bit of intent there from the chasing Simard. No way to find a way past, and Matt Lehman all of a sudden has gone from the man on the move, the man trying to find his way forward, to very much into a defensive posture as we've got Simard really interested in that 7th position currently occupied by the number 67 McLaren.
Well, that last sector of the track through the Craner curves, the old hairpin, and up to McLean's, we have seen that is where Simard seems to excel in that BMW. And it's funny, we've been talking about how there's only a couple of places to pass around this track, and Simard has put lie to that notion. He shows if you're fast and you're confident, you can pass just about anywhere. He's found some creative ways to get around. That's where I'm focusing on this next time by, to see if that BMW might make another innovative lunge somewhere that frankly no one is expecting.
And that is exactly how you overtake in racing. Do the unexpected. Pass where the driver is not anticipating you to put your car, and as long as they've got enough awareness, you can gain yourself a position. As we're looking now, Matt Lehman, the middle car in your shot, the purple McLaren 720S of Hillmount Racing, the number 67. He's been finding a way past Chris Pride. I'm going to interrupt myself because Chris Pride in 2nd position, our championship leader, Cody Pride, has a drive-through penalty. Cody Pride, with 5 minutes left on the clock, will have to go down pit road.
Oh, that is crucial for the championship. It really bails out Kondratoglu for one. It'll help him build a nice gap in the championship. It'll also help folks like Simard or Hendrickson that aren't having as good of a run today as they did perhaps in the first round of the championship, to help close into the championship lead just a little bit more. And that puts a bit more emphasis perhaps on this battle here, because the championship leader is in strife. Simard not close enough to do anything about Lehman at the moment. Hendrickson has done a remarkable job, quite frankly, of driving defensively for the last 20 minutes or so, keeping this purple McLaren behind him when it looked like Lehman's run through the field was inexorable. Here comes Simard, though, as Lehman got checked up, bottled up just a little bit at the apex of the corner. Can Simard get the run he needs down the straightaway?
Simard, not quite enough of an overlap on the McLaren, trying one way and the other. Cody Pride down pit road, serving his drive-through penalty in the Porsche as well. You can see him just coming off pit road now ahead of this panel. Hendrickson going down the inside of the McLaren, not quite got enough room, so get out of jail free card so far for Cody Pride. Only a few places lost out on the racetrack, but while that Porsche getting back up to speed will delay Hendrickson behind in the Mercedes, in turn will delay Lehman and Simard as well. So some opportunities here for the chasing pack, but Cody Pride will be absolutely furious with himself as now, look Ryan, we've got Lehman going for it in the McLaren.
Oh, Lehman took a lunge up the inside, couldn't quite draw alongside and had to back out of it or risk some contact there. This isn't over yet, and Simard just trying to figure out where to go. There's the punt up the back. Around goes Hendrickson, through goes Simard, 2 positions in 1. Now trying to chase down Cody Pride for 5th. Hendrickson able to get the car righted once again, but I don't know what the stewards are going to think of that from Lehman.
Yeah, 3 cars trying to squabble over tarmac, wide enough for just a singular car, and unfortunately, according to fate, everybody on the absolute ragged edge of what their respective cars can do. Little mistake, caught the back end of the car, spun him around, and Lehman manages to survive, but Simard absolutely exactly what the BMW driver needed. While those two squabble, walk through the open door, look the gift horse in the mouth and say thank you very much indeed, and the end result is 6th position. Meanwhile, Cody Pride, our previous 2nd place in the race and current championship leader, has dropped to 5th position courtesy of that drive-through penalty. As look here, Lehman under pressure again.
Yeah, Lehman, I think some classy stuff there to give the position back to Hendrickson, recognizing that his contact is what allowed him through, and oftentimes the stewards will take a look and see, all right, you gave the spot back, we'll let you race on at this point. However, that has brought him now back into the grasp of Carden Liu, and Nick Alvarado still very much in the mix, just outside or just inside of the points, running in 10th, right behind Carden Liu. So that little sportsmanlike gesture to let the Mercedes back through has now subjected Lehman to a bit more pressure than he's seen in quite some time.
Hats off to Matt Lehman there, though, as you say, you've covered it very nicely indeed. A very classy move to recognise the mistake was his, to concede the position and the track time that goes with it. So great bit of sportsmanship. I like to see that kind of thing, respect amongst the drivers, and I'm sure that will go a long way in the assessments of the stewards on track. But Carden Liu's now thinking, what's going on? There's lots of drama in front of me. I've got me an opportunity in the final couple of minutes.
And Alvarado licking his chops as well, trying to get a couple more positions before this is all said and done, as we're about to enter into the final minute of the race. Kadachilu very firm out in front of this one over Sever. Patterson runs in 3rd, dropping back to Fisher in 4th, and Pride, after that drive-through penalty, finds himself in 5th, looking to recover from that. We've got that great battle going on the left-hand side of the screen. Your race leader on the right side of the screen. Michael Kadachilu coming around to take what I presume will be the white flag. One more lap to go here at Donington Park, round 2 of the GT World Challenge America Esports Championship.
Fantastic racing from the green flag all the way through to the checker. Kadachioglu at the front of the field, very much the man without any pressure on his shoulders as he rounds the Melbourne loop for what I believe will be the final time, I think it is. Kadachioglu, great driving. In fact, great driving, Ryan, throughout the field.
It has been a thoroughly entertaining race from the drop of the green. We've had all kinds of drama, pit stop strategy gone awry, contact, some sterling recovery drives after misfortune, and look at that, the checkered flag was displayed, I thought, there in the background of this shot, but I'm also hearing in my ear it might just be 1 lap to go, so we'll see what happens here. It looks like Kadachilu is still very much in the gas, so I'm going to assume that's the case. And here we go. Last time through this section of the track, last season's champion, Michael Kadachilu, won that championship in a Mercedes. This time in the McLaren, had a strong run to 2nd at Kyalami, looking to do 1 spot better today at Donington Park.
Yeah, Kondacoglu dropped past the checkered flag, or popped the start-finish line, should I say, with just 1 second to spare, which has earned him another lap of this racetrack. Let's hope he's got enough fuel in that McLaren 720S to do an additional lap. And Simard on Pride now, Ryan.
Oh, this is a good fight here for the 5th spot, and give it to Philippe Simard, but Pride's not done. Back to the inside in McLean, side by side. The next turn is a right-hander at Coppice. Let's see if Pride can stay up alongside the BMW. Simard gives him just enough room to race. They exit side by side, banging fenders on the run down Starkey straight to the S's.
Fantastic stuff for Kondacoglu now through the final corner.
Here he comes, the Canadian, looking to repeat a season championship, coming to the checkered flag to take his first win of season number 3. Goes second, first in the first 2 races of the season. Here comes Sever to take the checkered flag. He'll come home in the 2nd spot. It will be Zach Patterson leading home Simon Fisher, unless Fisher can get the run out of turn number 11 for the final time. The smoke bombs have gone off to celebrate the end of this race. 3rd place to Acura, 4th place to McLaren. Simard does hold off Pride for the 5th spot. What a hard-fought 5th that was. Pride has to be licking his wounds a little bit after coming home 6th, despite running towards the front in the latter moments of this race, ultimately receiving a drive-through penalty. Rest of your top 10. Hendrickson holds off Lehman, then it's Carden Liu and Nick Alvarado.
Fantastic stuff, and a massive, huge congratulations to the entirety of the field, especially this man, Michael Kondacoglu, for taking the race victory. That was intense racing from the top to the bottom of the grid. Close, fair, respectful, sportsmanlike racing, and a beautiful advertisement for racing in the Americas in this, the GT World Challenge Esports America Sprint Series. Another fantastic SRO Esport competition race, and truly fabulous to see Donington Park serve up, Ryan, what has been 60 minutes that have gone by in the blink of an eye.
Well, you could see why this racetrack is so revered, and you talked about it being perhaps a little bit on the thinner side relative to some of the FIA Grade 1 circuits that we see GT3 cars race on. A bit old school in its nature, and we saw some old school racing, side by side, no holds barred, even a little bit of contact here and there, but I'll tell you what, it made for a great show.
Yeah, it really did, and it's beautiful to see as well that we've got an interesting race finish with Cody Pride dropping down to 5th at the checkered flag, and Michael Kondacoglu taking the race victory. So that has really opened up the championship heading into round 3. We've got a few drivers, Ayanori Rose not scoring on this event as well. Matt Lehman having a great recovery drive, 6th in the championship at present, but doing marvellous work there in the McLaren. So game on for round 3.
Also worth noting that of those that scored points in round 1 that did not in round 2, we did not have Ryan Walker or Ryan Meenan in the field here, so they will lose further ground in this week's race. Well, let's talk to our race winner. It was a well-judged run indeed for our Season 2 champion, Michael Kondacoglu. We should be hearing from him here very, very soon. Making the switch to the McLaren for season number 2. Michael, congratulations. 2nd in round 1, a win in race 2. How was your race? How would you judge how this one played out at Donington today?
Thanks so much. First of all, there's there's a lot to unpack from this race. It must have been great to watch, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened to Phil, but it seems like everything kind of just went right for me in this race. So yeah, it's a good race.
Our cameras caught just the briefest of off-track excursions for you late in the race. What happened there, and how frightening was it when you had a lead of up over 8 seconds and might have gone on a bit of an agricultural excursion there for a few minutes?
Yeah, definitely just a little bit of a lapse in focus, realizing that the race was coming to a close, and a little bit of a brown moment, I guess, but it wasn't too sketchy.
You made the switch in cars for this season. What was behind that choice?
It's a good question. I honestly drove the Merc so much before, and I kind of just wanted something new and fresh, and the McLaren's really good on this set of tracks, so I went with it, and it's been a great choice so far, and I think it's going to continue to be so.
The next race on the sprint calendar is at Spa, but before we get there, we've got an enduro at Laguna Seca. Are you planning on being there, and if so, who are you inviting to be part of your team?
I believe SideMax is looking at fielding a car for that, but at the moment we are unsure what the lineup's going to be, so I'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to enter a car in that, and it should be fun as well.
We look forward to it. Hey, thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the win. And if my math is right, and that's always a dangerous proposition, you should be the championship leader headed into round number 3, which I'm sure is exactly where you'd like to be.
Yeah, that's right. And I think you're correct on that. Because of Cody's drive-through, we would have been tied without that. But I just want to say Cody had a crazy recovery drive to be in P2 there. Very unfortunate for him at the end to get that drive-through. But yeah, he had a fantastic race. So it's going to be a close battle.
Great run. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Fantastic race. Deserving winner. This keeps our theme going back to Season 2, where we had no repeat winners that entire season. So far, through 2 races, no repeat winners here. I guess Michael is the closest we've got to it because he won in Season 2. Now he's won in Season 3, but it goes to show just how wide open this competition is. It seems like every single month we've got some of the same faces, but some new ones as well mixed in towards the front, and it seems like just about any manufacturer's got a shot as well.
Yeah, it's really good to see the level of competition across the board for these drivers, and a very classy drive there from Michael Konatsioglu, and also a very classy interview as well to shout out his championship rival Cody Pride and congratulate him on what was a spectacular recovery drive until that drive-through penalty. And it leaves a really mouth-watering prospect, doesn't it, for the rest of this season? We can expect these two to be at the sharp end, but with drivers like William Hendrickson, with drivers like Matt Lehman, who had so much pace despite the drama, and Felipe Simard as well, expect many, many names to be at the sharp end of the grid, and winning a race in this category is no easy task.
Now we saw that on full display. The level of competition up towards the front is truly remarkable, and I think the drive of the day in a lot of respects goes to Felipe Simard, who something went wrong in the pit strategy. He had a car that could have won this race today, but ultimately had to settle for 5th, but a great recovery to get there. That's going to do it for our coverage here for round 2 of the GT World Challenge Esports America Championship presented by Fanatec. Thanks so much for joining us. Our next sprint race will be at Spa, but the week before that, an enduro at Laguna Seca. Get your teams ready, start getting qualified. That should be a ton of fun. A great track that has played host to some major endurance races in international competition in recent years with the California 8 Hours. A great venue and one of the classic American circuits. Great to showcase that in the American Esports Championship. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping to make this happen. Thanks as well to Paul Jeffrey. Really appreciated the chance to get to work with you here this weekend. For everyone who contributed to the broadcast, thanks for tuning in. My name is Ryan Marine. We'll see you next time.